Cole dragged my suitcase down the hallway while I begged him to stop. His fingers gripped the handle so tight his knuckles turned white. The wheels scraped against the hardwood floor Dad had refinished last spring, leaving dark scuff marks neither of us would ever fix. "You don't belong here anymore," Cole said. His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was reading from a script he'd practiced. He shoved me onto the porch. My funeral dress caught on the doorframe, tearing slightly at the hem. The fabric Mom had helped me pick out 3 years ago, back when she was still alive, back when our family felt whole. The porch light snapped off before I could say another word. I stood there shaking in the November cold, watching through the window as Cole walked back inside. Something crumpled stuck out of his jacket pocket. Paper with Dad's unmistakable handwriting, the way he always wrote with those careful block letters. My phone showed 11:47 p.m. We'd buried Dad 8 hours ago. I grabbed my suitcase handle and started walking toward my car, parked 3 houses down. My heels clicked against the sidewalk. Behind me, our childhood home went completely dark. I slept in my Honda Civic in the grocery store parking lot that night. The security guard knocked on my window around 3 a.m., shining his flashlight inside. I explained I was fine, just needed a place to rest. He nodded slowly and walked away, probably seeing the funeral program still sitting on my dashboard. Morning came with frost covering the windshield. My neck ached from sleeping curled up in the driver's seat. I replayed last night over and over. Cole's cold expression, that paper in his pocket, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. That paper haunted me. Around 9 o'clock, I called Dad's lawyer's office. The receptionist answered on the 3rd ring, her voice cheerful and professional. "I'm calling about Theodore Brennan's will," I said. "I'm his daughter, Finley." Papers rustled on her end. "Oh, the reading already happened last week, sweetie. Didn't you receive notice?" My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. Dad was alive last week." Silence stretched between us. "Let me transfer you to Mr. Phillips." The hold music played for 6 minutes before she came back and told me Mr. Phillips was unavailable. She'd have him call me back. He never did. I showed up at the law office the next morning without an appointment. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain, recognized my voice from yesterday. Her friendly expression tightened. "Mr. Phillips is with a client. I'll wait." I sat in the lobby for 2 hours. The receptionist kept glancing at me nervously, typing on her computer, making phone calls in hushed tones. Finally, around 11, she stood up and walked to the back offices. When she returned, she accidentally said, "Mr. Phillips reviewed the draft Mr. Brennan updated 3 months ago, so there shouldn't be any." She stopped mid-sentence, her face going pale. "I mean, there's only one will on file. The original from 2019. "What draft?" I leaned forward. "What did Dad update?" I misspoke. "Please, you'll need to schedule an appointment. Cole told me there was only an old will. He said it left him everything." Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the phone. "I really can't discuss this without Mr. Phillips present. I left before security arrived, but I'd heard enough. There was another will." I went back to Dad's neighborhood that afternoon to pick up some boxes I'd left in the garage. Cole's truck wasn't in the driveway, thank God. I used my old key, the one I'd had since high school, to open the side door. Mrs. Patterson from next door spotted me loading boxes into my trunk. She hurried across her lawn, wearing her gardening gloves, looking over her shoulder like someone might see us talking. "Finley, honey, I need to tell you something." She lowered her voice. "I saw Cole and your father arguing 4 days before Ted passed. They were out on the back porch, and Cole was shouting about changing things back. Your dad looked so tired, but he kept shaking his head no." My chest tightened. "What else did you hear?" "Ted said something about you deserving it, that he'd already made his decision." Cole stormed off, slammed his car door so hard I thought the window would break. She squeezed my arm. "Something's not right here. Please look into this." Promised I would. I took a job at Morton Hardware 2 days later. The owner, Mr. Reeves, needed help with inventory and didn't ask many questions when I explained I just moved back to town. The pay wasn't great, But it was something steady while I figured out what Cole had done. During my lunch breaks, I started requesting public documents. Bank statements from Dad's account showed withdrawals I didn't recognize. Large ones, $5,000 and $6,000 at a time, all in the months before he died. Dad had been sick but not confused. He tracked every penny in his leather-bound ledger, the same way Grandpa had taught him. These withdrawals didn't match his careful records. Someone with access had been taking money. Someone who had Dad's trust and his account information. Someone like Cole, who'd moved back home 2 years ago claiming he wanted to help Dad after his divorce. Who'd convinced Dad to add his name to the checking account just in case of emergencies. I photographed every statement and stored them in a folder on my phone labeled evidence. While cleaning out my car trunk the following Saturday, I found an old ring of keys buried under my spare tire. I'd taken them from Dad's workshop months ago by accident, back when I'd borrowed his ladder from my apartment. One key had a small red dot of nail polish on it, Dad's system for marking important keys. He'd done that since I was little, color-coding everything. Red meant important, blue meant outdoor locks, green meant storage. The red dotted key looked like it fit a desk drawer. I drove back to the house that evening when I knew Cole would be at his poker game. Wednesday nights, same schedule for 10 years. I let myself into the workshop through the back door. The locked drawer was in Dad's workbench, bottom right. The red dotted key slid in perfectly. Inside, I found a single envelope with my name written across it in Dad's block letters. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was empty. Torn edges showed someone had ripped out whatever had been inside. Then I felt under the drawer lining and found a small USB drive taped there, labeled Final in silver marker. I went to the public library to use their computers. My laptop had died months ago, and I couldn't risk going home or anywhere Cole might track me. The librarian directed me to a private study room. The USB drive contained one video file dated September 14th, 3 months before Dad died. Click play. Dad appeared on screen, sitting in his workshop chair, wearing his favorite flannel shirt. He looked thin, tired, but his eyes were clear and focused. "Finley," he said, "if you're watching this, something's happened to me, and I need you to know the truth." My throat closed up. Tears blurred my vision, but I couldn't look away. "I changed my will 3 months ago. Everything, the house, the land, the cabin business, it all goes to you. I trust you to care for it the way it deserves." He paused, coughing slightly. "Your brother, Cole's been pressuring me to change it back. He thinks he deserves it more because he's the son, because he's older, because you are a daughter. But you're the one who called every week when you lived away. You're the one who understood what this place meant to our family." Dad leaned closer to the camera. "If anything happens, don't let Cole bully you. You're stronger than you know." The video ended. I sat in that study room for 20 minutes, just breathing, just processing. Then I saved 3 copies of the video to different cloud accounts. The next morning, Cole's truck followed me for 6 blocks after I left my apartment. I noticed it in my rearview mirror. The same dented front bumper, the same faded blue paint. He stayed exactly 2 cars behind, matching my turns. At a red light, I locked my doors. My heart hammered against my ribs. When the light changed, I took a sudden right turn. Cole followed. Another right. He followed again. Then I pulled into a busy coffee shop parking lot, and he sped past, trying to look casual. I sat in the coffee shop for an hour, hands wrapped around a cup I didn't drink, watching the parking lot. He didn't come back, but the message was clear. He knew I was looking into things. That afternoon at the hardware store, Mr. Reeves pulled me aside. "Your brother came by earlier asking about your schedule. Wanted to know what days you worked, what time you got off." He frowned. I didn't tell him anything, but Finley, he seemed pretty intense about it. "Thank you for not telling him. Family trouble. Something like that." Mr. Reeves nodded slowly. "You need anything, you let me know." I needed help from someone who knew Dad's finances. Someone Cole couldn't intimidate or pay off. I tracked down Diane Foster, Dad's former accountant. Cole had fired her last year, claiming she was too expensive and that he could handle the books himself. I found her working at a small firm across town. We met at a diner, sitting in a back booth where no one would overhear us. I knew something was wrong, Diane said immediately. She stirred her coffee with sharp, angry movements. Your father's records were perfect for years. Then suddenly last year everything got messy. Unexplained withdrawals. Missing receipts. When I asked Cole about it, he told me to mind my business. Can you help me trace where the money went? She studied my face for a long moment. If I do this, I need to know you'll protect me. Cole has connections, and I can't afford to lose clients. Promise. Diane pulled out a small notebook. Then let's start with the cabin business. Those rental properties were your dad's pride and joy. Dad's cabin business had 5 rental properties on the lake, each one maintained perfectly, booked solid every summer. He'd built that business from nothing, starting with 1 cabin 30 years ago. But when Diane pulled the current booking records, something was very wrong. Look at this. She turned her laptop screen toward me. Last year, the cabins brought in roughly $80,000 between May and September. This year, the system shows 0 income for 4 straight months. That's impossible. People love those cabins. Exactly. Diane clicked through several screens. But the booking system shows everything as unavailable. During peak season, someone changed the settings so new customers couldn't reserve dates. Where did the money go? She pulled up bank records. Into an account Cole opened last March. Look at these deposits. They match perfectly with historical cabin rental amounts. He's been taking the payments directly and keeping them off the official books. I photographed every screen, my anger building with each image. Cole hadn't just stolen my inheritance. He'd been stealing from Dad for over a year, watching him get sicker while bleeding his business dry. I requested a meeting with Mr. Phillips, Dad's lawyer, using a different name and claiming to be calling about a different client. His secretary scheduled me for Thursday at 2 o'clock. When I walked into his office, his expression changed immediately. Miss Brennan, you can't just. You know there's another will. I stayed standing, keeping my voice level. Dad's video is dated September 14th. He explains everything. The law office receptionist mentioned a draft he updated. Cole's been lying to everyone. Mr. Phillips's face went pale. He loosened his tie, sweat beading on his forehead. Your brother was very persuasive about certain matters. Did he threaten you? Not exactly. He wouldn't meet my eyes. But he made it clear he'd make things difficult if I didn't cooperate. I never destroyed anything, Miss Brennan. Swear. Then where's the real will? He walked to his filing cabinet, pulled out a folder, and handed me a slip of paper. This is the file number for the State Archive. Official copies are stored there. You can request it directly. I took the paper. Why didn't you tell me this from the start? Because I was afraid, he said quietly. And I'm ashamed of that. The State Archive was housed in a gray government building downtown. I filled out the request form using the file number Mr. Phillips had given me, then waited while the clerk searched their system. She frowned at her screen. This file was checked out 12 days ago. By who? Let me see. She clicked through several screens. Finley Brennan. That's you, right? My blood went cold. I never checked it out. Well, someone did using your name. Do you have ID? I showed her my driver's license. She compared it to something on her computer, then called her supervisor over. They spoke in low voices, looking concerned. The supervisor, an older man with thick glasses, turned to me. Miss Brennan, I think you need to see this. He pulled up security footage from 12 days ago, 2 days after Dad's funeral. The timestamp showed 10:23 a.m. There was Cole signing in at the desk, showing ID, requesting Dad's will file. He'd forged my signature on the checkout form. I need a copy of this footage, I said. We'll need to file a report, please. Just give me the footage. This is evidence of fraud. They printed the security report and gave me a USB drive with a video. I left before my hands started shaking too badly to drive. Mr. Reeves called me into his office on Friday morning. I thought I was being fired. I'd been distracted all week, making mistakes with inventory, showing up looking exhausted. Instead, he smiled. Finley, I've been watching your work. You're reliable, honest, and customers like you. I'm promoting you to supervisor. Comes with a raise and full benefits. I almost cried right there. Thank you. You have no idea how much this means. You've been going through something, he said. Can tell. But you still show up and do good work. That matters. The raise was enough to move out of my car and into a small studio apartment across town. Nothing fancy. Just one room with a kitchenette and a bathroom with terrible water pressure. But it was mine. Private. I bought a deadbolt lock and installed it myself that first night. Cole wouldn't find me here. I was building something he couldn't touch. Cole showed up at my new apartment 3 days after I moved in. I still don't know how he found me. Maybe he followed me from work, maybe he bribed someone for my address. I heard heavy footsteps on the stairs, then pounding on my door. Finley, open up. I looked through the peephole. Cole stood there, sweating despite the cold weather, his eyes wild and unfocused. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed. I know you're in there. More pounding. We need to talk about what you've been doing. Go away, Cole. Don't make this harder than it has to be. His voice cracked. Just tell me what you've heard. We can work this out. I stood with my back against the door, phone in hand, ready to call the police. There's nothing to work out. Leave now or I'm calling 911. He tried the doorknob. It rattled against the deadbolt. You're going to ruin everything, you know that. Everything I've worked for. You mean everything you stole? He kicked the door once hard. Then I heard his footsteps retreating down the stairs. His truck started up and peeled out of the parking lot. I called the building manager and reported it. She agreed to install security cameras in the hallway. Diane called me the following Monday with news. Found something big. You need to see this in person. We met at her office after hours. She spread documents across her desk, pointing to highlighted sections with a pen. Cole took out 3 separate loans against your father's property over the past 18 months. Look at these dates: September of last year, February this year, and June. Total amount: $412,000. Felt dizzy. Dad never would have agreed to that. He didn't. Look at the signatures. She pointed to loan documents. I compared them to your father's real signature. These are forgeries. Not even good ones. The way that loops is completely wrong. If the bank finds out, he'll face criminal charges. Bank fraud, forgery, probably more. He used that money to cover gambling debts and bad investments. It's all documented here. She handed me a folder. Every loan, every payment, every lie. I took the folder with shaking hands. This wasn't just about the will anymore. Cole had committed actual crimes. Mrs. Patterson called me that Wednesday. Finley, I need to tell you something else. Something I should have mentioned before. What is it? The argument I told you about. I recorded part of it on my phone. I was in my garden, and they were so loud I got nervous about what might happen. I thought maybe I should have proof in case. Well, in case something happened to your father. My heart raced. Can I hear it? She sent me the audio file. I listened in my car, parked outside the grocery store. Cole's voice came through, angry and desperate. You can't do this to me. I put everything into this place. Dad's voice, weak but firm. I already changed it, son. Finley deserves this property. She's the one who cares about family, not money. Left. She abandoned us. She left to build a life. You came back because you needed something from me. There's a difference. The recording cut off there, but it was enough. Dad's own words, stating clearly that he'd changed the will in my favor. Mrs. Patterson also signed a written statement describing everything she'd seen and heard. Another piece of evidence for my growing case. Cole's life started falling apart in ways I only heard about through other people. His wife, Stephanie, called me out of nowhere on Saturday morning. Finley, I'm leaving him. Her voice was flat, exhausted. I'm taking the kids and moving in with my sister. What happened? I found out about the loans. He used our joint savings account to make payments without telling me. $40,000 gone. When I confronted him, he admitted everything. The forgeries, the stolen cabin money, the lies. He paused. He's been spiraling for months, Finley. I tried to help him, but he keeps making it worse. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Don't be. You're not the one who did this to him. He did it to himself. She took a shaky breath. I'm texting you screenshots of his messages from the past few weeks. He's been panicking about the will situation. I think you need to see them. The screenshots showed Cole's messages to friends, to lawyers, to anyone who might help him hide what he'd done. In one message he wrote, "If Finley finds the real will, I lose everything. The house, the cabins, my entire future. I can't let that happen." Stephanie had been keeping records of everything. Diane met me one last time before I filed my court petition. She handed me a thick folder, perfectly organized with tabs and highlighted sections. "This is everything," she said. "Every financial crime Cole committed, every forged document, every stolen dollar. I traced the cabin payments, the loans, the withdrawals. It's all here. Why are you helping me like this?" "Because your father was a good man, and what Cole did was disgusting." She pushed the folder toward me. "I'm resigning from my position here next week. Starting my own consulting firm. I don't need to be afraid of Cole anymore. Thank you, Diane, for everything. Win this case," she said. "Not just for yourself. For your dad." I promised her I would. With all my evidence compiled, Dad's video, the security footage, the forged loans, the witness statements, the financial records, I filed a petition with the probate court to reopen Dad's estate. The filing included a motion to nullify any previous will reading and to investigate Cole for fraud, forgery, and theft. A process server delivered the documents to Cole at his workplace on a Tuesday afternoon. His co-workers later told me he turned pale, sank into his chair, and didn't move for 10 minutes. He called me 13 times that evening. I didn't answer any of them. Each voicemail was more desperate than the last. "Finley, please, we can talk about this. You're making a huge mistake. Dad wouldn't want this. I'm your brother. Finally, please. Can't lose everything." I saved every voicemail and sent copies to my lawyer. The bank received copies of my evidence regarding the forged loan documents. Their fraud department moved quickly. Within 3 days, they froze all accounts connected to Dad's property. Cole's credit cards started declining. His truck got repossessed from the grocery store parking lot. His employer suspended him pending their own internal investigation into his behavior. He sent me text messages at all hours. "You're destroying me. I made mistakes, but I'm still your brother. How can you do this to family?" I responded only once. "You threw me out of Dad's house in my funeral dress. You stole from him while he was dying. You forged documents and committed fraud. This is what consequences look like." He didn't text back after that. The will reading took place in probate court with a judge presiding. Cole sat on one side with a public defender. He couldn't afford his own lawyer anymore. I sat on the other side with the attorney Diane had recommended. The judge reviewed all the evidence I'd submitted. Dad's video testimony, the security footage of Cole forging my signature, the financial records, the witness statements. She read the real will aloud. Every asset Dad owned, the house, the land, all 5 rental cabins, his savings accounts, was left entirely to me. Cole received nothing. "Mr. Brennan," the judge said, looking directly at Cole, "do you have anything to say?" He stood up, shaking. My father was confused at the end. He didn't know what he was doing. "Stop." The judge held up one hand. She played Dad's video on the courtroom screen. We all watched Dad explain his decision clearly, coherently, with obvious sound mind and intention. When it ended, the judge turned back to Cole. "Your father knew exactly what he was doing. This will is valid and legally binding." Cole sank back into his seat, trembling. After the hearing, Cole followed me outside to the courthouse parking lot. Tears streamed down his face as he grabbed my arm. "Finley, please. Sorry." I panicked. I was drowning in debt and I thought I deserved the house more since I'd been taking care of Dad. Pulled my arm free. "You weren't taking care of him. You were stealing from him. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I'm still your brother." His voice broke. We're all we have left. You threw me out of our father's house the night we buried him, Cole. You terrorized me. You tried to steal everything Dad worked for. Kept my voice calm. You made your choices. Now live with them. I'll lose everything. You already did. I walked to my car and drove away while he stood there crying in the parking lot. I walked back into Dad's house 2 weeks later, legally now, with keys provided by my lawyer and the court order in my hand. The neighbors watched from their porches. Mrs. Patterson came out and hugged me tight. Your father would be so proud of you, she whispered. Inside, the house smelled stale, unlived in. Cole had left it in disarray. Dirty dishes, scattered papers, beer bottles on the coffee table. It would take work to restore it to what Dad had maintained. I found the torn original will stuffed in a kitchen drawer, crumpled and stained with coffee. I took it carefully, smoothed it out, and placed it in a folder. It would serve as a reminder of what I'd survived, what I'd fought for, what I'd won. Cole sent me one final message 2 weeks later. Can I work on the cabins? I need money. Please. I stared at his text for a long time before responding. I'll be hiring licensed staff only. Good luck. No anger in my response. No cruelty. Just boundaries. I blocked his number after that. 3 months later, I stood on the back porch of Dad's house. My house now, overlooking the land he'd spent his life caring for. The rental cabins were booked solid for the summer. Diane had helped me hire an honest management company. The hardware store had given me a leave of absence to handle estate matters, but Mr. Reeves promised my supervisor job would be waiting when I returned. Mrs. Patterson waved from her garden. The lake sparkled in the afternoon sun. Dad's workshop still smelled like sawdust and motor oil. I didn't have to destroy Cole. Truth destroyed his lies all by itself. Everything Dad built, everything he trusted me to protect, it was mine now. Not because I fought dirty or played games, but because I refused to let theft and fraud win. I'd been thrown out in the dark, alone and scared. Now I stood in the light, on solid ground. And finally I could breathe. What would you have done differently? How would you have responded to betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Click the notification bell, like and share with others. Thanks for your support.